Hi guys, I'm delighted to announce that we are now stocking these Roberto's Winds Reeds for alto and tenor saxophone currently, and these are a premium cut Rigotti variant of reed. Absolutely wonderful things. So Roberto's Winds, who are they? These are specialists in selling saxophones, primarily second-hand saxophones, vintage saxophones, clarinets and flutes also, and they operate in New York City on the other side of the pond, where they're doing great work over there. And we are now delighted to collaborate with them and stock and sell these reeds. Now, Rigotti cane is very famous for producing fantastic reeds with a lot of consistency. They're well known all over the planet, and I'm sure that that's one of the reasons why Roberto's approached Rigotti in order to cultivate their own variant on Rigotti reeds, as it were, and that's precisely what they've done. Now, they've been out and about for a few years now, and they are associated with some big hitting players, including the likes of Joe Fram, Seamus Blake, Tommy Smith, Mark Turner, Tim Price, just to name a few. So as I say, we recently got connected with them, had a bunch of samples sent over to us, and I've been testing them out now for a couple of weeks or so, and I've just been really impressed at the results. Okay guys, so my intention today was to demonstrate both the alto and the tenor reeds, but I've slightly split my lip and it's actually making tenor playing quite painful at the moment. So I'm just going to limit it to the alto for the time being. And what I'm going to do is play two Roberto Winds reeds in exactly the same strength, just so you get an idea of how the consistency changes from one reed to the other. I've actually been playing one reed for about a couple of weeks, so in a sense it's broken in and I've kind of got used to the way it's performing. And then I'm going to select a brand new reed, just have it soaked for a few minutes and see how that performs in comparison. And then to compare to those two, I'm going to pick out a Rigotti Gold reed because the point is you can't really tell how these reeds are sounding unless I put it in some kind of context, and the obvious context is to play it alongside Rigotti Gold reeds, because the idea of these Roberto Winds reeds is that they are very similar to the Rigotti Gold concept. Obviously they're Rigotti cane, so that's a given, but how do they vary? Well, the idea is they're slightly darker, they don't have quite the same kind of cut and drive as the Gold, they don't have the same highs in the sound, and I want to put that to test to actually see if it comes across to you guys like that when I do a back-to-back comparison. So it's going to be two Roberto's Winds reeds against a Rigotti Gold in exactly the same strength. Well, that was really interesting. The order of reeds that I played there, just to let you know, was the Roberto Winds reed 2.5 hard, which I've actually been blowing in for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I moved on to a brand new 2.5 hard Roberto Winds reed, and that final one there was the Rigotti in the equivalent strength. And For me, my experience was that the first one had a certain brightness to it, certain toppiness that was almost a little bit too much. And I think this Meyer mouthpiece is it's a great quality mouthpiece, but it can get a little bit pingy at the top. So if the reed gets overly blown in, then you get that extra brightness there at the top, which in some situations can be wonderful, and sometimes it can be a little bit too much. But then when I moved on to the next reed, which was the fresh Roberto Winds reed, it was about just right. There was a certain meatiness in the sound and body in the sound that you experience when you put on a new reed, because it's not quite blown in yet. And I really liked the tonality of that second one. It was something a little bit more to push against, not so pingy at the top. And then when I moved on to the Rigotti at the end, I was expecting a little bit more brightness, as the spec would indicate, with the Rigotti. But if anything, I found a certain amount of stuffiness in certain areas with this Rigotti reed compared to the other two, the Roberto Winds reeds. So my favourite there was the middle one, which is the Roberto Winds, and I've been used to the other Roberto Winds reed as well, the one I've been warming up for 2 or 3 weeks, and have been enjoying the results on that. This Rigotti here that I've just tried at the end is also great, but just a little stuffy in a few areas. And I can hear the sort of brightness that you would potentially get with this one if you were to blow it in over a few more hours. I think that extra brightness would start to shine through a little bit more, and you'd start to differentiate between the straight gold compared to the RB reeds that I was playing first of all. So it was an interesting experiment. You know, they're all different, as you'd expect. Every single piece of cane has its own quality to it, and okay, yes, one's 2 or 3 weeks old compared to a brand new reed, so perhaps that's you know, not perfectly scientific, but it's certainly scientific in terms of trying out a new RB reed against a gold, just so you can hear those differences. But hopefully this has been useful for you today, hearing those variations between standard Rigotti Gold and the all new, for us anyway, Roberto Winds reeds. I think they're fantastic. There's a longer vamp on these reeds, I should have said in the first place, just by a few mils or so over and above other standard reeds such as Jazz Select reeds, and that gives you a really nice clean response. It allows you to play really softly and have an immediate articulation. And then when you push it, the sound doesn't go overly bright. There's still enough heart and warmth in the sound there, which I really like. So overall, it's a beautiful reed, a lot of consistency there. And the fact that these top guys are playing it speaks volumes in itself. So I think these reeds are going to do really great in our store. And I thoroughly recommend you try them out by ordering on the internet, on our website, and seeing what you think. But my impressions are that these are fantastic reeds.